Well, hello, hello. I'm just going to come on live real quick and give you a quick analogy about using watches and how you want to think about women in the dating market. Okay. And the analogy is not going where you think it's going to go. So stay till the end and you'll see where it's going because I know where you think it's going to go and it's not actually going there. Right. All right. So let's start with going through some of the watches in my collection. So here we have a Rolex. All right. Has DLC, coating. So it's got the black coating on it. There we go. If my camera will focus on it. And so, yeah, it's a deep sea dweller. Um, this is the status of watches. Okay. So the Rolex here, status of watches. I mean, if you wear a Rolex, people know what Rolex is, so they know that it's successful, right? They know that there's something behind this watch. They know that there's craftsmanship behind it. But a lot of them don't think about the craftsmanship. They don't think about how well made a Rolex Submariner or Deep Sea Dweller is. They just know that it has the name Rolex on it, and then that must mean that there's some status there, right? And that's like, yeah. And so that brings us to a point. A lot of Rolexes are faked. You know what I mean? Well, because people don't know the difference between why this watch is about $18,000 right now. I think if you get online to try to order a Rolex Deep Sea Dweller with the black coating on it, why it would be that expensive. They don't understand what goes into it and all that. But a lot of it is you are paying for the name. So that's okay, right? So that's the Rolex. We start going down the list here. We got something different than that is this Movado, some Movado Sapphire. All right, it's a nice watch. Now, some people who aren't big into watches, right? They're not watch people. They're going to think the Movado Sapphire looks better. All right, because the style of it is more suitable to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are going to think this Movado Sapphire is a better looking watch, period. Now, if you know about watches, okay, you know that Movado is not very well respected in the watch community because, well, it's pretty cheap movement. They use cheap quartz movements and it's more of a fashion watch. And fashion watches are really just not that well made in terms of how watches are made and how watches are judged. They're just more made to look a certain way or to look good, and then they put a higher price tag on it. And this isn't a cheap watch. This is probably about $1,500. The Movado Sapphire is now this particular Movado Sapphire, however, I'll never get rid of it, never sell it, even though I don't wear it very much, because my girl got it for me while I was in Afghanistan. So she put a lot of thought into it and picked this watch up for me, and it does look good, and I enjoy wearing it because it's a good looking watch, and it means something to me. All right. Let's go in a completely different direction. Here we got a U-boat. All right. Now, U-boat is a big watch. This thing has a big casing to it. All right. It takes up quite a bit of space. It's not for everybody. For most people, it's too big. All right. It's kind of fashionable, stylish. It's designed in Italy, assembled in Italy. Parts are made in Switzerland, I believe. And nobody denies, though, that's a watch person, that the U-boat is a quality watch. It's as far as watches go, it's very made very well. But it's a little controversial piece because it's made well, all right, but some people don't like it. All right. Some people think it's too big, too clunky. They don't like the marketing behind it. They think that it's too much of a fashion watch, similar criticism you get with like Movado or something like that. It's too much of, let me try to get attention. Hollywood, maybe 12 years ago, they were wearing these, to try to be attention seekers, right? Celebrities, stuff like that. And then that turns off a lot of certain types of people in the watch community. So some people wouldn't be caught owning or caught dead with a U-boat, and some people like and love the watch. I personally like it a lot. And then we have Vostok. Okay. Vostok is a automatic Russian diver. Oh, U-boat's a couple $1,000. Vostok, you have is about $100, maybe $115. All right. And so this is $115 watch. But I mean, I really, if you can see, that's a really cool look to it. It's automatic movement. It's just a cool looking watch. It's a little small for me though, because of my hands wrist sizes and my arm size is a little bigger. And so for me, it kind of appears small at like a 39 millimeter, or 40 millimeter can be small for me. But it does look sharp on me though anyway, and it's just a cool piece. It has a vintage feel and look to it because it's been around since, I want to say, World War II or Cold War, possibly like early Cold War, and it hasn't changed one bit, and it's just inexpensive. And then, and I'm going somewhere with this analogy, guys. I promise this is not just to talk about my watch collection because I have more things that I'm not sharing with you. I just got this guy though. This watch fucks, man. This watch is the watch that fucks. Got all the groups. This is the 007 Omega. All right. So some people think, oh, they don't like it because it's a little bit trendy. Trying to get it on camera there, and that it's a 007 watch. But when you look at it, unlike Omega's last 007 version, where they had a really corny 007 on the case, on the front part of the casing, which to me looked cheesy, this doesn't have that. It's pretty subtle. And right now I got the NATO strap, but I have a stainless steel Melanie strap for more of a dress look. And it's a really cool watch, very well made. Omega arguably makes a better watch than Rolex. Omega, I would say, makes a better watch than Rolex. Okay. But Omega's not status, right? So this Omega is about 10 grand, maybe. Whereas the Rolex is going to be more money, 18 and climbing. And there's other watches here that within the watch communities, like he signal even more status that I don't own, like your Pateks and your Audemars, AP, Royal Oaks and stuff like that, right? You start getting into higher status, higher dollar amounts and stuff like that, which I have no real interest in, or not necessarily going to try to afford one necessarily. But even if I could, I just don't think I would put that much into a watch as much as I like watches. But so that being said, so here's a bunch of different ones, whole bunch of different watches, whole bunch of different options. Now, here's the thing about it, right? You have guys who are Vostok enthusiasts, right, who wouldn't be caught dead wearing a Rolex. Yes, the Rolex is nice, and there's a lot of good things about Rolex, especially this one's really nice one, but they're not interested in that. They like the vintage Vostoks, even though they're about $100, and they're not collecting watches for status and clout. They like their niche. And if you were to give them a Rolex, they could buy a Rolex themselves. They have enough net worth to get it, but they just don't choose not to. And if they did get a Rolex or they have one, they might keep it for a minute just because or whatever, but they're going to probably sell it, profit from it, and buy maybe some more of these to add to their collection, and then buy something completely different because they don't want to put that kind of resource into watches. That's the Vostok person, the Vostok buyer, And I could go down the line and mention why someone would want this Movado over this U-boat or this Vostok or this Omega that I'm wearing. All right. And we could keep going through it. They all have a purpose. They all have quality to them, and they're different levels of quality. We try to do it objectively, but it doesn't matter because objectively the the Rolex is a better watch than the Vostok, but some people would never wear this Rolex and would wear the Vostok instead. Objectively, this Omega and the Omega watches are better quality than than your Rolexes. Now, it's arguable, and you guys can argue about that in the chat if you want. But objectively, there's a lot better watches. In fact, I don't I have it over there somewhere. I'm not going to grab it. My Hamilton, in my opinion, is better than a lot of Rolexes. However, it's not recognized. The status not as much. It's not as expensive. This Rolex is not cheap, but it's not as expensive. I'm sorry. This Omega is not cheap, but it's not as expensive as the Rolex. And yet, I would say that the Omega is a bit better made in that sense. And a lot of people like the Omega's better, even though they could afford the Rolex and they could have it. And so, why am I going with this? Where am I going with this analogy? How does this apply to women? Well, this applies to women because this illustrates how women see you. So I'll repeat that again. All right. This illustrates how women see you. Okay. And so that's some women, some guys are going to walk in and everyone recognizes them. They're high status males. And you have chicks out there that just don't care about that. And they would rather have some monkey sex in a seedy hotel room with Vostok. Okay, the angry Russian who's gonna choke him out and give him a bunch of orgasms. All right, you know, or some girls want the Omega, the James Bond, but you know what? Other girls don't want anything to do with the James Bond Omega. They want the big, thick, meaty U-boat. All right. You see where this analogy is going, but it's not just sexual. It has to do with everything about you as a man. So, and there's a reason that this analogy is really important because let's say you're a Rolex. I mean, hell yeah. Let's say you're, and so Whole Plumber doesn't get the analogy. He thinks I'm talking about girls being watches. I'm not talking about girls being watches. I'm talking about you being one of these watches. All right. So let's say that you're this Rolex. You're high status and you're the most expensive one in the lot, and you got a lot going for you. Everyone recognizes you. Why would you date or go for the girl that doesn't value you and would rather be with Movado? Why? But you guys do it all the time. All right. You guys do it all the time. You find yourself pining for the girl that doesn't respect your value and what you bring to the table and who you are and what you are. All right. You go for the girl that doesn't appreciate you. I can hand this watch to somebody who doesn't know much about watches and doesn't really care about Rolex, and they'll leave it on the table or the counter or whatever. They'll scratch, they'll leave it somewhere that's, it gets damaged maybe a little bit or scratched a little bit, or maybe they just throw it on after flashing it around a little bit, then they sell it and get rid of it. You see what I mean? And some girls treat you men listening exactly just like that. You're that high value person and you go for a girl that just doesn't see your value. Doesn't mean that you're not intrinsically valuable. This is a very well made, one of the best made watches in the world. But there's people out there who wouldn't know, who wouldn't recognize it. They would have no idea. You know what I mean? And you guys go for that person oftentimes. And they do what? They use you, they flash you around, and they get rid of you or they leave you somewhere, and they're with they're with the wannabe flashy Movado, or they're with a big monster U-boat, whatever. You get what I'm saying. Girls, they have preferences, they have things that they value. Some of that stuff is universal, a lot of it isn't, but it doesn't matter. Okay. The point is you want to go with the person who's, there's a lot of things you're going to use to vet these women out, but you want to make sure that if you are settling with somebody, especially if you're being in a relationship, okay, something beyond casual, all right, you're going to make sure that that girl sees you for who you are, what you are, and values you. Because remember, just like watches, there's dudes out there who would take $100 Vostok which $100 little watch, but this little watch has a lot of unique features and it has value. It's very cool watch. And a lot of collectors would rather have this than some of the more expensive ones. And some of the ones that are better made, some of the ones that appear more valuable. And and I'm not talking about low value watch collectors either. I'm talking about guys who could totally afford a lot more than that. Similarly, there's hot girls, high SMV girls who want a guy of particular characteristics and want to show it and value that guy. So let's say you're a guy, because there's a couple of people have plumbers in their names. Let's say you're a plumber, okay? You're the plumber, all right? There's girls out there who's gonna see your value for what you are and what you do, what you bring to the table. They're not gonna be like not genuinely desiring you because you're a plumber or something, right? Just to use that thing. But it's not just what you do for a living, it's the whole of you, right? But whereas there are women out there who are, not going to ever be caught dead with you. They don't want that. They don't want you. And if they get in a relationship with you or they start banging you or whatever, they're just going to devalue you, right? And that's just what they're going to do because really they want something different. But that doesn't make you less of a man. All right. Don't base your level of masculinity, your alphaness, your value as a man on what some one chick's opinion is of you. Because that one chick might just want a different watch. You get what I mean? And then there's chicks out there who don't see any value in any of these things at all. And no matter who they end up with, they're going to trash them. You get it? But yet you guys will catch feelings for them and you'll get in relationships with them. Sometimes some of you have kids with them, share finances with them, get married to them, and they don't value you. They'd rather have a different watch and they couldn't get that watch for some reason. So now they're with you, or they're not even capable and don't care to value watches at all. So it wouldn't matter what she had. So the analogy is you, of course, you're the watch in case people aren't getting that. And you need to pick and surround yourself with women in your life who see your value and see you as valuable. Now, yes, your overall sexual market value and how you improve yourself as a man, all right? And that includes your game and your frame and your seduction abilities. That's all going to make the difference as to how she sees you. All right. But at the end of the day, if she's not capable of or doesn't care to see you as valuable, then you need to not be investing your emotions, your time, your effort, energy, and definitely not your commitment. Because there's some people you could hand them the most expensive watch in your collection, and they'll throw it in the trash. And that's it. And that's who they are. And that's what they'll do. So never forget that and keep that in your mind when you deal with people and women that you're dating and in relationships with. So I got to get on to some more work and consults. I'm working with a lot of guys one-on-one. If that's something that you're interested in, there's still a few seats left in the Seduction and Frame Mastery Program, where you get to work one-on-one with me for a year-long membership. There's course material, there's Zoom calls, and there's some one-on-one sessions that we do to get you completely dialed in, completely surgical over the course of a year with your seduction and frame abilities, right? Because it's about time you guys get it together with the women in your life and the way that your life is with women. Because once you do, and once you have these skills, and once you know these things and have it together, then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about being infected by bad experiences with women or a lack of experience with women and having that problem bleed into everything else you're trying to do. Your sense of well-being, your enjoyment, right? Your sense of purpose and where you're going in life. Don't don't let that stuff, don't let your issues with women mess you up with the rest of your life, right? And then have great experiences with women. Well, this program is going to allow you to do that. The link's in the description. You can book a free interview and consult just to see if you're a good fit for it. And maybe I'll see you on the other side. All right. Didn't interact with you guys much because I got to go. But thanks for tuning in and I appreciate you. Till next time.